Well, I guess now is as good as any other time to let you guys in on a little secret. I'm mixed, bitch! Uh-uh. What's up, everybody? It's Luke James, not the singer. If you're looking to get your music reviewed, you can hit up this email that's right here. But today, we are going to talk about this new album from Logic called Everybody. Now, Logic is an MC out of Maryland who has put out quite a few projects over the years, and if I look back at some of his mixtapes, I really think he had some great work in there, specifically the one called Welcome to Forever. This is actually the first time I got introduced to his music, and I really liked his double time flows, melodies, and production choices, because he did bring a lot of wavy sounds as well as some boom bap beats. But the album that really blew me away is Under Pressure, man. This was his debut studio album, and even though a lot of people out there said that he was borrowing too much from his contemporaries, which, you know, I can clearly understand that. A lot of people were comparing him to Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick. I understand all that. But still, I really did like that album quite a bit. Again, he was showing off some versatility, doing some good storytelling on there, and just everything about it seemed pretty dope to me. I didn't have too many complaints, although I do get why people weren't feeling it. But after that, man, it has been kind of a rough road for me and Logic's music. I did think The Incredible True Story was kind of dope. It had some very wavy, melodic tracks on there. It was nice and smooth, but it also had this very wonky sci-fi concept that didn't really connect with me, and it kind of just felt like a gimmick more than anything else. Then after that, he had that Bobby Tarantino mixtape, which I just was not fucking with at all. But he did state very clearly that that was something for his fans, his diehard fans. So if they loved it, then who cares what I think, really, because that's who he was making it for. But now we come to this project, and honestly, I wasn't too excited going into this one. I mean, I didn't like too much of his music since Under Pressure, as I mentioned, and it was also made very clear that this would be another concept album, and he would be talking a lot about racial issues. Now, we got to discuss right here very quickly this whole biracial and mixed thing, because a lot of people are memeing and joking about this and bringing up how often Logic talks about it. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. He only talks about it a little bit here and there. You can hear it on his mixtapes, throughout some of his albums and in interviews and such, but he doesn't really go into it into too much detail until this album right here, because you are definitely going to hear a lot of that shit. You'll hear it on the single Everybody, where he's rapping a little bit about what it's like to not be fully accepted by the blacks and the whites. And then when you go into Africarian, he really is breaking down what it was like for him to grow up with these identity struggles and just be struggling with what it is to be biracial and mixed, man, as well as some other shit, because he had a pretty crazy upbringing. So as someone who is mixed, I can definitely understand some of those experiences, and I appreciate him sharing his story. But I can't lie, man, this shit gets very redundant, and at times it kind of feels like he's just hitting you over the head with this over and over and over. And the perfect example of that comes on the track called Take It Back. What happens here is you get this really dope beat, has some bass on it that is thicker than Pinky, before she got all sloppy, back when she was actually thick and looking half decent. And Logic is really working some nice flows on this, as you would expect. I mean, his rapid fire double time flows are definitely one of his strengths, and you're going to get that throughout this album. But unfortunately, he is rapping again about this biracial struggle and his identity issues, and then for the last 5 minutes or so of this track, he's talking about it. Actually talking, not rapping, just ranting and raving about it in this exaggerated tone, man. This shit was so unnecessary. It was the waste of a fire beat, and it really completely just took me out of this track altogether, because I already heard him a couple times talking about this shit, and we're getting it again on this song. So I don't know, man. I understand what he's going for here. I respect and appreciate it. I'm just making it very clear because I'm sure this was a very important album for him to make, and it probably felt good to get all this off of his chest. But the whole tragic mulatto trope just gets old so damn quick, man. I wish he could have just made maybe one song where he really fleshed this idea out, and then on some of these other songs and these other moments, he could have rapped about something else, or maybe came up with some more interesting concepts to rap about this rather than beating us over the head with it like a fucking Bam Bam Club from the Flintstones. And on top of all that, we gotta talk about how his political content can be a little bit shallow and redundant as well. I mean, to me, one of the things that makes a political rapper great is their ability to maybe bring some new ideas and facts and just really open our minds up, and or be able to just inspire us and make us want to rise up and fight the power, man. Just really want to take control of shit and get our hands dirty. But I don't get any of that from Logic, and the perfect example is on the song America. On this one, he really is just kind of spitting some standard cliche bars, some anti-Trump bars, speaking a bit about inequality, and also shouting out fight the power and fuck white power. So I can appreciate that he's getting his message out there. I understand what he's saying, but he's not really delivering these messages in any new or outstanding or exciting type of way. It wasn't the type of political track that I listened to and went, wow, this is some crazy shit, man. This is going to change the game and I need to get my shit together and start fighting the power. And on top of that, I gotta say, man, I was kind of disappointed even with Black Thought and Chuck D on there, because these two are pioneers. They are known for their socially aware content, just being two very smart brothers, and they weren't bad on this track, but even them on here didn't uplift this track and make it into one of my favorites, or something that I would come back to. Not to say it's a bad track, it's just kind of good. Now, two other examples of his political content or social commentary falling short come on Most Definitely, where he just says that the white man wants the black man to stay broke, and on Confess, when he brings up that white people are running everything. Now, I do understand on Confess, he's actually speaking from the point of view of this other man who's just confessing all of his sins and coming clean, so I did kind of like the concept on that track, but I just feel like if you're going to target a specific group like that and say something so bluntly, you really need to explain yourself and come deeper with some of your ideas, just to let people know what exactly it is you're trying to say, because if you don't clarify, if you're not that clear, it really does kind of just come across as shaming, playing the blame game, and waving your finger. And I'm not even saying he's wrong with everything he's saying, not even going to say that I agree with everything that he's saying on this project, obviously, but I just feel like he could have done much more with that to explain himself. And you're definitely going to have some people who are going to be turned off by some of this shit because he doesn't explain himself. He's really just going into it, and it almost feels like he's just saying to white people to get your shit together. Not to say that's his intent, but at the same time, if you're a dope political rapper and you want to say these type of things, you better make sure you cover your bases and clear that shit up. Now, I did still like the song Confess. As I mentioned, it has a pretty cool concept, and also the beat on this is dope with some nice piano keys, some vocals coming into play, just has this very triumphant and inspirational feel, much like the track Black SpiderMan, which I did review in episode 8 of the Rundown, so go back if you want to hear why I like that track so much. But what disappointed me about Confess, you got Killer Mike featured on here, and he's just talking. What is it with Logic and talking on this album? I already mentioned on Take It Back, and now you're going to waste a Killer Mike feature on what probably would have been my favorite track by just having him talk? Oh man, that shit was such a disappointment, man. Even when the track listing came out and I saw that, I was so excited just to hear a classic Killer Mike verse where he's dropping some political shit, some social commentary, and coming with some humorous, hard-hitting bars, but no, we didn't get that. He's just on the end speaking to God, expressing his frustrations. And I do admit, he sounds dope when he's just talking some shit. I'm not gonna hate on Killer Mike. He does have that very powerful voice that makes you want to listen to him and hear what he's saying. But I don't think anyone saw that feature and thought, oh my God, I really hope Killer Mike is talking on this one. I don't want to hear bars. I want to hear him talking. That'd be dope. So that shit was a major disappointment for me. I can't lie on that. And there actually were some other features on here that I found disappointing as well. I mean, you got Logic on the end of Africarian, where he is speaking to Logic and offering some good advice, because he tells him, just fuck the black and white shit, man. Be yourself. But, unfortunately, this shit sounds like it was recorded with a potato, or like he was Skyping bars with someone late at night while his mama was in the house because he didn't want to wake her up. The quality is just shit. It sounds really bad. I don't know if maybe they thought that would be some charming type of thing, but it kind of ruined the vibe a little bit for me, and I'm not a huge J. Cole fan anyway, so even though that was a surprise feature, he's not listed on the track, I didn't really care that much. Then you get Juicy J on the track Inkblot, but he basically just shows up to drop some of his catchphrases and do some ad-libs, so that wasn't really a great feature either. I mean, he does throw back to the classic 3-6 track Slob on My Knob, like Corn on the Cob. I mean, I'm not going to hate on that, but overall, that track to me was pretty forgettable. There wasn't much about it that I liked, and a lot of these features were disappointing, like when that live-action Dragon Ball movie came out. Do you remember how trash that was? I mean, we didn't have crazy expectations for it, but that shit was booty, booty, booty. However, I do have to be very clear that there were some things I liked about this album. I definitely didn't think it was trash like some people were saying. I would say that is definitely an exaggeration. I really did like some of the instrumentals on here, like on Hallelujah. This is another one that swells up with a triumphant feel, has all kinds of great instrumentation and vocals coming into play, just feels a little bit heavenly. And that twisting bass line on Killing Spree, oh lord, that shit is nasty as hell. And I would say this is my favorite track on here, or at least one of them. I think Logic actually had better content on here, as he raps about how people often get so caught up in what the killer or the shooter or the murderer looks like and what their beliefs are, rather than, you know, coming together and in mourning for the people that are dead. Everybody wants to just blame a group of people. Like anytime a shooting happens, it's like, oh, was it a white guy? Was it a Muslim guy? Was it a black guy? And then we all know how it goes down, man. People just say the same shit they always say on social media rather than mourning and coming together. It's just a blame game. And this group of people needs to get their shit together because they do this. So, you know what? I think it was really dope how Logic was speaking about that. He was also speaking on how people are trying to live through their cell phones. He just sounded really passionate on this track, and he brought a lot of great content. So for me, that was easily a favorite. I also mentioned how much I like Logic's flow. I think he sounds great when he's coming with that rapid style. But I did tweet something on Twitter that kind of upset people. I didn't really clarify what I was trying to say, so let me clear that shit up very quick. What I tweeted out was that Logic is slowly becoming Tech-9 and Hopsin tier to me. Not to say that he's exactly on their levels. I mean, I'd probably take Under Pressure over any projects from Hopsin and Tech-9, although Tech-9 does have a really dope back catalog if you look at his earlier work, and Hopsin, well, no, I'm not saying Logic is on Hopsin's level, so let's just not even go there. But what I mean is that these are three rappers who have great technical skill, but I don't really care when they drop music or drop albums. I kind of just expect the same type of shit, some great flows. I don't get into the content too much, and I'm not really a big fan of their albums. So I'm not saying all three MCs are exactly the same. I'm not even bashing these three MCs. I'm just saying for me personally, that's how I feel. Great rappers, but they don't really make me care too much about their projects. So ultimately, all I gotta say here is this isn't a great project to me. It ain't a trash project, as I mentioned, and there are a couple of good things. The flows, there are some nice instrumentals on here, and again, I do appreciate how he's telling his story and being very positive. But I also feel like sometimes people act as if positivity is enough in hip hop. I mean, there's this crowd of people out there who think that there's no one spitting shit like this, man. Who else out there is bringing positive content and rapping about things to uplift black people and make people feel better? You have people out there who say shit like that sometimes about different artists, but there are many positive hip hop artists out there. I'm telling you, man, all you gotta do is look. Brother Ali just came out with the album. Odyssey had a great one this year. There are all kinds of other artists out there you can check for. I mean, that's just a couple examples off the top of my head. But that's not to say that Logic isn't doing it or that erases everything he's done. I'm just saying there's a lot of other rappers out there bringing this type of shit that is real and going to help people out. So let's not just get carried away and say no one else in the game is doing it. But another problem I had here, as much as I'm talking about the things I like right now, I gotta bring up how heavy-handed and clumsy some of the messages are on here. I mean, I really did appreciate what he was doing with that suicide hotline track. Obviously, that's a very serious issue, and if he can help anyone, I mean, that's great. I can't hate on that at all. But the music, no. What you get with this one is some very soft, synthy kind of pop production, a whole lot of crooning, and the songwriting on here is just so simple and straightforward. It wasn't a very deep track to me. Like, there wasn't any profound bars or anything on here like that. He just wants you to live, don't kill yourself. And then, of course, there's that very cringeworthy moment where he's asking people if they can relate, and then he's like, woo! As if people who are suicidal are going to respond back. You know, they're at the worst point of their life in this bottomless pit, and they're just like, yeah, fuck yeah, Logic. Throw your hands side to side if you want to commit suicide. That's brutal. That's terrible shit. Then you have the song Anxiety. Again, this is great. He's talking about mental health issues and sharing his story with anxiety, but this is another one that's not overly memorable as far as the overall sound goes. And man, again, with the talking, Logic is going on another tirade about his anxiety and telling you a story. You can appreciate the shit, but goddamn, man, I don't want to hear all this talking like that on an album, man. I just don't really want to hear that. Put that shit into bars, man. Make it sound good. Now, of course, we do have to talk about the concept here, with Neil deGrasse Tyson acting as God, speaking to this man named Adam. And this whole idea here of rebirth and oneness is taken from a story called The Egg. So it's not even an original concept. Once I found that out, it kind of made it even less impressive than it already was. I don't know. I just didn't feel like this was a tightly wound concept. You only get that intro skit, the outro skit, the waiting room skit, which is about 4 or 5 minutes. But I don't know, it didn't really make me care too much as I was listening through. I'm sure it resonated with some people and really struck them, but for me, it was just some more talking to skip through. I didn't really care about that much. So personally, this to me isn't a great album, it's not a trash album, and I would give it a 2.5 out of 5. And before people wonder, how can you give this a 2.5 when you rated this a 2.5, or you gave this album this, or you gave it a that, a da 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 da. A lot of this for me, personally, because it's my opinion, has to do with Logic's trajectory, man. I really just feel like he's been on the decline since Under Pressure. I still love that album, like some of his tapes, and I do like a couple songs here and there, even on his projects that I'm not big on, but as of now, I'm not really excited to hear much more from him, and he did say his next album would be his last, so I guess we'll have to stay tuned to see how true that is. But that's all I have to say. I ranted my ass off throughout this. Hopefully you guys appreciate it. We can have some good discussions in the box below. So as usual, make sure you do all that good YouTube and social media stuff, man, where you like my videos, you share them, you follow me on Twitter, you retweet the videos, and of course, man, you gotta subscribe to my channel and click like on that Facebook page and swing by Instagram, of course. Thank you for watching, everybody. I will see you next time.